Most people want a companion, someone to share their life and hopefully grow old with. People meet a number of places, work, school, or through dating apps and services. Not every match is perfect though, and relationships may not work out immediately, or it could take years for someone to realize that their partner isn't right for them. When that happens, most people break up and move on to someone else. Sometimes though, the person you break up with can't seem to let you go. Here are 5 of the craziest stalkers. In 2011, Brian Curtis Heil was living in Fremont, Michigan, and had been in a relationship with a woman online. The couple had been dating for a few years, but Brian eventually found out that the beautiful woman in the pictures that he had been sent was not who he was really talking to. No, Brian had been talking to a man in South Africa, most likely trying to scam him out of money. When Brian learned of this deception, he became enraged, but his focus wasn't on the man that was scamming him. No, Brian became obsessed with the woman in the images that he had been sent. This woman was not in on the hoax. She didn't have any idea that her pictures were even being used. She had had a photo bucket account that had been compromised and her personal photos were being used without her knowledge. Brian didn't seem to care as he had developed a strong hatred for the woman he believed had scammed him and couldn't seem to understand that the woman in the pictures wasn't the same person. He began searching extensively for the true identity of the woman in the pictures. Through a search of chat rooms and by hacking into the woman's email account, Brian was able to find personal information on the woman, her live-in boyfriend, and her family. He left Michigan and traveled to San Diego, California, where Tiffany Watkins lived with her boyfriend. He was intent on killing both Tiffany and her boyfriend in retaliation for the slight against him, but fortunately he was arrested before he could do any harm. It turned out that Brian had contacted a family member back home and told them that he had been to Tiffany's home once, but that nobody was home. This relative contacted authorities in San Diego and they picked him up just a few miles from Tiffany's house. In his possession were the victim's address, phone numbers, email addresses, phone contacts, contact information of the victim's favorite restaurant, and the names and addresses for the educational institutions that the victim had previously attended. Brian was also found in possession of duct tape, zip ties, and a to-do list that included additional supplies he needed to complete his plan to kill the 2 victims, including a trench coat, a knife, chloroform, and learning how to pick a lock. Brian Curtis Heil was convicted of 2 counts of interstate stalking and was sentenced to 5 years in prison, followed by 3 years of probation. Many people meet their significant others on dating apps, websites, or in-person agencies, and Dr. Allison Hewitt was no different. She was a young, successful professional and used a service to meet other professionals to date. This is where she met Alamin Dahala, a Canadian living in England, and the 2 quickly moved in together. After lies about his past were uncovered, Allison decided to end the relationship, but Alamin was not ready to let her go. First, it took months to actually get him to move out of her apartment. Once he finally did, he began watching her all the time, bombarding her with calls, texts, and emails, and even sending her poison pen letters. He also hired a private investigator to snoop on her. He got a van and built a cage in the back and began target practice with a crossbow. Then he set fire to the home of Allison's mother and stepfather. Luckily, they were out of town at the time of the arson, but Alamin wasn't aware of that. After he set the fire, he dressed up like a doctor and went to the hospital where Allison worked, but was stopped by a security guard. The police were called and Alamin was arrested. He ended up being convicted of arson, attempted arson, and harassment and was sentenced to 6 years in prison. The good news for Allison is that he'll be deported back to Canada after his release, so she has less of a chance of retaliation by her ex-boyfriend. When Christopher Guy met June Parker on a dating app, he was immediately smitten and wanted nothing more than to impress her. He spent months telling her about his time in the British Army. He told her tales of fighting on the front lines and pulled at her heartstrings with stories of being shot in the head and the back and of watching his best friend die. When June repeated Christopher's stories to her ex-husband, he said that they sounded a lot like the plot of the movie American Sniper. June said that when she confronted Christopher, he threatened to kill himself. As their relationship began to sour, Christopher convinced her to take a pregnancy test and then swapped the test out for a positive one. He used the fake pregnancy to try to get June to marry him, but she didn't bite. Eventually, she kicked him out of her house. After that, he told his mother that June was pregnant and that they were getting married, even booking a facility for the wedding. He began sending June ominous text messages that said things like, quote, "Death do us part." When June finally started looking into Christopher's past, she found out that he had never been in the army. He tried to join, but didn't make it past basic training. When she received a text message that told her that soon her ex-husband would be going away for a long time and that they could finally be happy again, she alerted the police. Christopher Guy was arrested and given a 2-year restraining order, fined £145, and given an order for community rehabilitation. June said she's surprised that he's not in jail and still worries about the safety of herself and her children. While many people go looking for love in person at school, work, or maybe even a singles bar, it's becoming more and more common to find your next relationship online. For Jamie Calloway, however, she decided to choose an unorthodox place to meet her next love interest: jail. Jamie had been serving time in the clink for obstruction, criminal damage, domestic violence, theft, aggravated menacing, and drug possession, amongst other charges. While inside, she met a corrections officer that she took a liking to. After her release, she began stalking the officer, calling her home, sending her packages, and even slashing her tires. Because what better way to get someone to respond to your advances than destroying their property? Jamie was easily identifiable as the person responsible for the harassment, as she had the word God tattooed on her forehead in large letters. She has a YouTube channel called Jamie Godhead Platinum, where she refers to herself as the Godologist of Godology. She also has a LinkedIn profile where she claims to be the president of Gold Theocracy LLC and the owner of Exodus Space Travel, amongst a number of other companies. Jamie was arrested and booked into Montgomery County Jail on misdemeanor charges of menacing by stalking. Many people fantasize about starting a relationship with a celebrity. One of the downsides of living your life in the spotlight is that some of your fans might become obsessed with you, which might turn into a dangerous situation. This happened when Ricardo Lopez became infatuated with the Icelandic singer Björk in 1993. He had had obsessions with other celebrities, but this time it was different. He began gathering information about the singer and started writing her a number of letters. He started writing in a diary that would end up being 803 pages, where he referenced Björk 408 times. The years went by and Ricardo's fantasy became a reality in his mind. That was until 1996, when he read an article in Entertainment Weekly that mentioned that Björk was in a relationship with an English musician. To Ricardo, Björk had betrayed him and now he needed to punish her. He began making video diaries, and in one entry he said, quote, "I'm just going to have to kill her. I'm going to send a package. I'm going to be sending her to hell." Ricardo initially wanted to make a package bomb that would shoot hypodermic needles filled with AIDS-tainted blood at Björk in an effort to ruin her life forever. But the plan wasn't feasible. Instead, he built a letter bomb containing sulfuric acid and sent it to Björk's home in London. After the package was mailed, Ricardo made one last video diary entry where he listened to a Bjork song and then shot himself in the head. He said that after his bomb killed Bjork, they would be reunited in heaven, which is strange because he said that he was sending her to hell. His body was discovered 4 days later when a foul odor was reported and the Hollywood, Florida Police Department contacted Scotland Yard in London. Luckily, the package had not been delivered to Bjork and authorities were able to intercept the package and dispose of it. Bjork made a statement saying that she was distressed by the incident and encouraged her fans not to take her too seriously or get involved with her personal life. If you're the victim of domestic abuse, please reach out to someone for help. Please talk to your local shelter or call the National Domestic Abuse Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE. That's 1-800-799-7233. Or you can go to thehotline.org to chat with someone online. This website is set up so that at any time, hitting the escape key twice will take you to a Google search page. That way, if your abuser is nearby, you won't get caught seeking help. If you're having feelings of harming yourself or someone else, or even just need someone to talk to, please contact your local mental health facility, call 911, or call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline by simply dialing 988 in the United States. They're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and will talk to you about any mental health issue you may be facing. Thanks so much for letting me tell you this story. If you enjoyed it, subscribe on whatever platform you're on, hit like, rate us, or leave us a comment. You can also check out our other show, Somewhere Sinister, on YouTube or anywhere that you listen to podcasts. If you'd like to support the show, check out our new merch at Teespring. The link is in the description. Thanks again, and be safe.